bullshit, man. What you got going on?
Shit. Same day, different shit.
What up?
How you?
Shit coolin', man. You know how I do. Shit, same old shit. Trying to maintain.
Quentin Gray was shot multiple times in his own living room while his two sons slept nearby.
I ain't talking about magic. Niggas get killed in this field and it's tragic. Gotta stay focused, you lose when you sleeping. Watch how I'm moving, I move with precision.
His girlfriend Niasia called 911 claiming a stranger did it.
He was shot and is he breathing?
No, I don't think so.
Alright, when did this happen?
Like 5 minutes ago.
Alright. And how many is injured? Is it just him?
Yes, it's just him.
Alright, and how many suspects were involved?
I don't know, sir. I was there with my bed and I just heard gunshots. I put him under the bed.
But investigators found something that made their blood run cold. Deleted messages between Niasia and her coworker discussing exactly how to stage the crime scene. This is how a mother turned her home into a killing field. Before we dive into the night that changed everything, you need to understand who Quentin Gray really was. This wasn't some dangerous street guy with enemies lurking around every corner. This was a 30-year-old father whose entire world revolved around two things: his music and his children. Quentyn lived in LaGrange, North Carolina, a quiet community where everybody knows everybody. Population barely over 2,500, the kind of place where violent crime makes headlines for weeks. He shared a modest home on Sweet Amy Lane with Niasia Perkins and their two young sons. To anyone looking from the outside, they seemed like a normal family trying to make it work. Neighbors consistently described the same man: gentle, responsible, always with those boys. You'd see him playing with them in the yard, taking them to the store, one neighbor told investigators. But Quentyn had dreams that stretched beyond the borders of Lenoir County. He created rap music under the name Hoodrich Montana, recording tracks whenever he could steal time between diaper changes and bedtime stories. His lyrics reflected his experiences growing up in eastern North Carolina, but friends emphasized something crucial to investigators. His music wasn't about criminal life or dangerous connections. He wasn't involved in anything illegal, a childhood friend told detectives. His music was about his life, his struggles, his hopes. He wanted to succeed the right way. Court records backed this up. Unlike many homicide victims, Quentyn's background was clean. No criminal activity, no dangerous associations, no debts to the wrong people, no enemies who might want him dead. He was focused on creating stability for his family while chasing his musical dreams when time allowed. His daily routine was predictable and domestic. Evenings at home with the kids, participating in local gatherings, building connections within the tight-knit LaGrange community where family values actually meant something. His relationship with Niasia appeared stable on the surface. They'd been together long-term, shared parenting duties, and seemed to be navigating life's everyday challenges as partners. What made Quentyn's murder so shocking wasn't just the violence. It was the complete absence of obvious reasons for anyone to want him dead. No warning signs, no dangerous lifestyle, no visible conflicts that would predict violence. Just a regular evening at home that somehow transformed into his final hours. The investigation began like any other homicide case, but within hours, details started emerging that didn't add up to Niasia's story of a random break-in. Detectives walking through the crime scene noticed the first major problem immediately. There were no signs of forced entry anywhere. Every door intact, every window undamaged. If someone had broken into that house, they would have needed a key, or someone inside would have had to let them in. We examined every possible entry point, one detective later explained. Not a single door or window showed evidence of being forced open. The home's exterior was completely intact. The second red flag was just as obvious. The interior didn't look like a typical burglary scene. While some areas appeared disturbed, others remained completely untouched in ways that made no sense for an intruder moving through unfamiliar space. Valuable items sat in plain view, ignored. Drawers stayed closed. The disruption seemed selective rather than random. Then came the ballistics evidence that started unraveling Niasia's entire story. The pattern and trajectory of bullets recovered from the scene suggested the shooter had fired from a position that contradicted her description of events. The medical examiner's report showed Quentyn had been shot multiple times from relatively close range, not the chaotic scenario Niasia had painted of a panicked intruder, but it was the neighbors' statements that really started exposing the lies. While Niasia claimed she'd been awakened by gunshots around midnight, people living next door reported hearing voices and activity much earlier in the evening. Investigators made the decision that would crack this case wide open. They obtained warrants for phone records. What they discovered in those digital communications would expose a conspiracy that had been weeks in the making. Phone logs revealed extensive communication between Niasia Perkins and Calvin Coley, a 29-year-old man who worked with her in Kinston. On the surface, Calvin seemed unremarkable, no significant criminal history, living in nearby Goldsboro, apparently just a coworker. But the digital trail told a completely different story. Messages between them, recovered through forensic analysis, showed discussions about staging a crime scene, references to timing, locations within the home, and actions to take afterward painted a picture of careful planning rather than reaction to random violence. The digital evidence also proved that despite Niasia's claim of being asleep when the shooting occurred, her phone had been active in the minutes before that 911 call. While Niasia presented herself as a grieving partner in public posts after Quentyn's death, private messages with Calvin contained discussions about their relationship and future plans together. Plans that apparently required Quentin Gray to be permanently removed from the picture. One deleted message recovered from Calvin's phone, sent just hours after the murder, was particularly chilling. No one suspects anything. They believe me. When investigators confronted Niasia with these digital contradictions, her story started falling apart. Minor inconsistencies appeared in her follow-up statements. The timeline she described kept shifting. Details about what she'd heard and seen evolved with each telling. The supposed home invasion was revealed as an elaborate fabrication designed to cover a planned execution. The digital correspondence, physical evidence, and witness statements collectively proved that Niasia Perkins and Calvin Coley had conspired to murder Quentin Gray, then staged the scene to make it look like a break-in gone wrong. What investigators uncovered next would show just how cold and calculated this betrayal really was, and how long these two had been planning to eliminate the father of Niasia's children. Think about that for a moment. These two people spent weeks discussing how to murder the father of Niasia's children. They researched methods. They studied police investigation procedures. They practiced their lies. This wasn't some crime of passion or moment of rage. This was a cold, methodical plan to eliminate Quentin Gray. She was providing him with intelligence to carry out their plan. On December 7th, just hours before Quentin would be shot dead in his living room, security cameras captured Niasia and Calvin meeting in a parking lot near her workplace in Kinston. Now let me walk you through what actually happened that night, based on the evidence investigators pieced together. Around 10 that evening, Quentin put the children to bed and settled in for the night. But Niasia wasn't settling in for the night. Her phone records show she remained in contact with Calvin throughout the evening. At 11:30, Calvin's phone location placed him within a quarter mile of Sweet Amy Lane. A message from Niasia at 11:42 was just 2 words: "Back door unlocked." You see what happened here? There was no break-in because Calvin didn't need to break anything. Niasia had given him access to her home. She had unlocked the door and invited her boyfriend's killer inside. At 10 minutes past midnight, Niasia called 911 with her rehearsed performance, The Terrified Girlfriend. The victim of a random crime, the grieving mother whose children had lost their father to senseless violence. Except none of it was true. Every word was calculated, every sob was performed, every detail was designed to hide the fact that she had orchestrated the whole thing. While police were responding to her fake emergency call, Calvin was already driving back to Goldsboro. By 12:30, he was posting on social media from his residence, creating a digital alibi that placed him far from the murder scene. Niasia had developed feelings for Calvin. She wanted a new life with him, and Quentin Gray was an obstacle to that future. By January, investigators had assembled an airtight case against both conspirators. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't self-defense. This wasn't even a burglary gone wrong. This was a calculated execution carried out by the mother of the victim's children and her workplace lover, who decided that murder was easier than ending a relationship. When investigators finally had all the pieces, they moved fast. January 15th, both Niasia Perkins and Calvin Coley were arrested at their workplaces in Kinston. The charges were serious: first-degree murder and felony conspiracy. At the bail hearings, the judge took one look at the evidence and denied both of them any possibility of release. The evidence suggests a level of planning that makes these defendants particularly dangerous to the community, the judge stated. Their defense attorneys immediately started fighting the digital evidence. They filed motion after motion trying to exclude those damning text messages. They argued the communications were taken out of context, misinterpreted by investigators. Every single motion failed. The evidence was too clear, too direct, too overwhelming. When the trial began in early May, the courthouse in Lenoir County was packed. Quentin's family sat in the front row every single day. The prosecution didn't waste time with elaborate theories or complicated explanations. They simply presented the evidence in chronological order and let Niasia and Calvin's own words convict them. Forensic experts testified about the ballistics and the lack of forced entry. Neighbors described hearing arguments instead of break-ins. After just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict. Niasia Perkins, guilty of first-degree murder. Calvin Coley, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. 2 days later came sentencing. Niasia received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Calvin got 25 years. Quentin's 2 young sons now face growing up without their father, their lives forever changed by actions they were too young to understand. The community still struggles with what happened. Neighbors who knew Quentin as a quiet, dedicated father now question what they thought they knew about the family next door. Local discussions have emerged about recognizing warning signs that aren't always obvious, about dangers that can exist even in seemingly stable homes. For law enforcement, this case became a teaching moment about the importance of thorough investigation techniques and digital forensics. This case serves as a reminder that the people closest to us have the greatest power to cause harm. Quentin Gray trusted Niasia Perkins completely. He shared a home with her, raised children with her, built a life with her. He never suspected that the woman sleeping beside him was planning his murder. This has been another episode examining the cases that shock us, the crimes that challenge our understanding of human nature, and the investigations that reveal truth hidden beneath convenient lies. Stay alert, look out for one another, and reach out if you sense danger. See you in the next story here on Deranged Women. Thanks for watching. Remember, danger can wear a friendly face. Stay aware, look out for others, and reach out if you need help. See you in the next case on Deranged Women. Thanks for watching.